Okay, I'm like super shy right now. I'm a little nervous. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. I haven't uploaded in ages. I have my oat milk matcha latte here, and I am going to, since I haven't uploaded in forever, I'm going to reintroduce myself and just share a little bit about myself. If you guys are new here, my name is Miranda Marie. I'm 26 years old. I'm married and I have two beautiful, amazing, beautiful baby boys. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 5-month-old. They're currently sleeping, which is why I don't really upload as much as I would like to, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Another fact about me. So all of my time is dedicated to them and like raising them, making sure they have everything they need, teaching them, nurturing them, etc., etc. Other great love of my life, other than my husband, is my books. I love to read. I'm a major bookworm. I read any chance I get. I wake up earlier than the boys so I can read. I go to sleep later than the boys so I can read. Right now, when they're sleeping and napping is when I usually read. I have been wanting to record and upload to YouTube and find other book besties who love to read like me. And also I wanted to document my love for reading and how I read while being a mom, like a full-time mom of 2 kids, because everyone that I watch on like Book Talk or BookTube or Instagram book people, they're young, they're like not married, they're not a mom, so it's just a little difficult to like relate to them. But also in like my delusional mind, I'm best friends with all of them. So now that I've reintroduced myself, or introduced myself to those who don't know who I am, don't know really anything about me, I'm going to share. I have a big stack of books here. I almost dropped my matcha. That would have been a disaster. Okay, this is like a little bit more difficult. It's okay, we can do this. So these are my 5-star reads. I'm going to share with you guys my top rated 5-star books, so you can get to know me a little bit better based on my 5-star reads. That was really heavy. Also, all my links will be in the description box below. My Goodreads, my Pinterest, my Instagram, my TikTok, everything like that. When I think about a 5-star read, for me is a book that I think about while I'm reading other books, or while I'm listening to songs, or a book that I think about almost daily, probably weekly. And these books I think about so often. I compare them to the books that I'm reading. I compare them to movies, I compare them to shows that I'm watching, music that I'm reading, and I think about them so often, like so often. That's how I gauge if it's a 5-star read for me or if it's just a 4 point something for me. These I think about on a weekly basis. I love these books. If someone asks me what book that I recommend, I'm always going to start with these books. These are my 5-star reads. I think everyone should read them. There is going to be no spoilers in this video. I'm just gonna read the basic like synopsis on the book, Goodreads summary about it. So I think this was my first 5-star read ever in my life, other than like Twilight, but I was a little delusional because I read the Twilight saga when I was literally in 5th grade. Who allowed me to read that? I have not read this book in probably 3-4 years. I read it once and that's it. I know that it was good to me back then when I read it, but I don't know if it would be good to me now because I was completely in a different mindset back then. But furthermore, Sad Girls by Lang Leah. This author usually writes poetry books, and I'll insert some of her poetry and prose books here on the side. So I had read those before I read this one, and I saw that this was like a new release at the time, so I picked it up and I read it on a road trip that my boyfriend, now husband, and I took, and I read it in just that road trip, like on the road. Okay, so Sad Girls by Lang Leah on Goodreads has a 3.34 star rating, with 11,200 ratings and 1,500 reviews. For the Goodreads book description of Sad Girls, it says your first love isn't the person you give your heart to, it's the first person who breaks it. School is almost out for Audrey and the panic attacks are just beginning because Audrey told a lie and now her classmate Anna is dead. Just as her world begins to spin out of control, Audrey meets the enigmatic, I can't talk, Rad, the boy who can't turn it all around. But will their ill-timed romance drive her closer to the edge? Question mark. So this book is basically about a girl who tells a lie because she's a teenager and everyone lies as a teenager, and someone overhears this and it like spreads throughout the rest of the town, and now she's forced to live the reality of the consequences of spreading a rumor and saying starting a lie just to say it. Like, she had literally no reason to say it, if I couldn't remember correctly. Again, I haven't read this in years. Spreads a rumor about this specific girl. This specific girl ends up passing away for some reason or another. You have to read the book. And then she ends up falling in love with the dead girl's ex-boyfriend. On the back it says, a girl who cried wolf, a boy in sheep's clothing, a killer romance, and a deadly secret. That literally sums up the book better than the synopsis on Goodreads. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I remember reading this and I just loved it so much because it got me back into reading, and this is like a big hefty book. This like 560 pages and I read it in less than 24 hours because it was so addictive. It had romance, it had witty banter, it had grumpy sunshine, small town, love, romance, but it also had action, like an actual side plot of something that was going on in her life. So Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score has a 4.17 overall rating on Goodreads. It has 791,000 ratings. It says, bearded bad boy Barbara Knox prefers to live his life the way he takes his coffee, alone. That's kind of cringe. Unless you count his basset hound, Waylon. Knox doesn't tolerate drama even when it comes in the form of a stranded runaway bride. Naomi wasn't just running away from her wedding. She was riding to the rescue of her estranged twin in Knockamount, Virginia, a rough around the edges town where disputes are settled the old-fashioned way, with fists and beer, usually in that order. Too bad for Naomi, her evil twin hasn't changed at all. After helping herself to Naomi's car and her cash, Tina leaves her with something unexpected, the niece Naomi didn't know she had. Now she's stuck in town with no car, no job, no plan, and no home, with an 11-year-old going on 30 to take care of. There's a reason Knox doesn't do complications or high-maintenance women, especially not the romantic ones. But since Naomi's life imploded right in front of him, the least he can do is help her out of a jam. But just as soon as she stops getting into new trouble, he can leave her alone and get back to his peaceful, solitary life. At least that's the plan until the trouble turns to real danger. I have read the second book in this series. I didn't love it as much. This one's my favorite. I still have to read the third one. I've been putting it off because I know I'm not gonna love it as much. Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I love it, love it, love it. The next one, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Guys, look at this. I love this. I love this book. Oh, I love this cover on Goodreads. On Goodreads has a 4.42 overall rating. It has over 3 million ratings on Goodreads. This is a very popular book. Oh my God, I love this book so much. Reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses an unknown magazine reporter, Monique Grant, to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career, Monique listens in fascination. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s, to leaving show business in the 80s, and of course, the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Written with Reid's signature talent of creating complex, likable characters, is a mesmerizing journey through a splendor of old Hollywood into the sobering realities of the present day as 2 women struggle with what it means and what it costs to face the truth. This old Hollywood, sort of like Marilyn Monroe-esque actress, Evelyn Hugo, is telling her life story through interviews and like going back in time, and she's just telling stories of her childhood, of each of her husbands. And this is more of a literary fiction with a side plot of romance. This is not a romance book, but it just has so many good lessons. So it's just so good, so good. And I think they're adapting this to I don't know if it's a film or a series, but I cannot wait to see this. I hope they don't butcher it. Next, Emily Henry books. These are the only 2 Emily Henry books I've read. I have 2 more on my shelf. I have not read them because I have such a long TBR. Beach Read and Book Lovers. Oh, so good. I love Emily Henry. I love her writing. Each of the characters have something going on in their own life and things to overcome, but they are still falling in love, which is very, very real, instead of just like rainbows and butterflies shooting out of someone's. Book Lovers, it says Nora Stephen's life is books. She reads them, but she's not that type of heroine. Not the plunky one, not the laid-back dream girl, and especially not the sweetheart. In fact, the only people Nora is a heroine for are for her clients, for whom she lands enormous deals as a cutthroat literary agent, and her beloved little sister, Libby. Which is why she agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina for the month of August, when Libby begs for her sister's trip away, with visions of a small town transformation for Nora, who she's convinced needs to become the heroine in her own story. But instead of picnics in meadows or run-ins with a handsome country doctor or bulging four-armed bartender, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie Lastra, a bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be a meet cute if not for the fact that they've met many times and it's never been cute. If Nora knows she's not an ideal heroine, Charlie knows he's nobody's hero. But as they are thrown together again and again in series of coincidences no editor worth their salt would allow, what they discover might just unravel the carefully crafted stories they've written about themselves. So Book Lovers on Goodreads has an overall rating of 4.14 with over 1 million ratings. Our female main character and our male main character are both editors for like publishing editors, and they both for some reason leave busy New York City for one reason or another, for their own reasons, and they go to this small town in North Carolina where they keep meeting each other again and again. Beach Read on Goodreads has a overall 4.01 star rating with over 1 million ratings as well. A romance writer who no longer believes in love, and a literary writer who is stuck in a rut, engaged in a summer-long challenge that may just upend everything that they believe about happily ever afters. Augustus Everest. Oh, Gus. I literally cannot lean on the counter without thinking about Gus and thinking about this book. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction, and January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. And in fact, the only thing that they have in common for the next 3 months is that they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Until one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish a book and no one will fall in love, really. Basically, they make this pact, like, you write my type of books and I'll write your type of books, even though they're completely opposite, to get them out of their writer's block. And I just love that this is based in a beachside town, because when I think about book lovers and romance and falling in love, I think about a beachside town. This one, if I could rate it a 5.1, I would rate it a 5.1. I love this. Next, when I say I cried actual tears, like bawling my eyes out to this book, that TikTok sound, it's like, why would you write this? Why would you write this? But thank you for writing this. Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. My sweet, sweet Archer. I think about this book maybe every 2 days. So Archer's Voice has an overall rating on Goodreads at a 4.22 stars with 468,000 ratings. When Brie Prescott arrives in the sleepy lakeside town of Pelion, Maine, she hopes against hope that this is a place where she will finally find peace she so desperately seeks. On her first day here, her life collides with Archer Hale, an isolated man who holds a secret agony on his own. I literally have dust on this and I just sniffed it. A man no one else sees. Archer's Voice is the story of a woman chained to the memory of one horrifying night and a man whose love is the key to her freedom. It is the story of a silent man who lives with an excruciating wound. Stop, I'm gonna cry. And the woman who helps him find his voice. It is the story of suffering, fate, and the formative power of love. I'm literally gonna cry right now. I love this book so much. It hurts my heart how much Archer went through. I literally cannot talk about this book any longer because I will start to cry. Because I love him so much. I'm just moving on. If you're gonna read 3 books in this whole, let this be one of them. Next 5-star read. This actually made me cry real tears as well. Not as much as Archer's Voice, but what will make me cry more than Archer's Voice? Daisy Hates and the Magnolia Park series, probably only. But Love in Other Words, Christina Lauren. This was so good. This is a second chance romance. So Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren has an overall 4.27 star rating on Goodreads with 585,000 ratings. The story of the heart can never be unwritten. Macy is settling into an ambitious, if emotionally tepid routine. Work hard as a new pediatrics resident, plan her wedding to an older, financially secure man, keep her head down and her heart tucked away. But when she runs into Elliot, I'm excluding their last names because I literally cannot pronounce them. When she runs into Elliot, the first and only love of her life, the careful bubble she's constructed begins to dissolve. Once upon a time, Elliot was Macy's entire world. Growing from her gangly, bookish friend into the man who coaxed her heart open again after the loss of her mother, only to break it on the very night he declared his love to her. Told in alternating timelines between then and now, teenage Elliot and Macy grow from friends to much more, spending weekends and lazy summers together in a house outside of San Francisco, devouring books, sharing favorite words, and talking through their growing pains and triumphs. As adults, they have become strangers to one another until their chance reunion. Although their memories are obscured by the agony of what happened that night so many years ago, Elliot will come to understand the truth behind Macy's decade-long silence. Will have to overcome the past and himself to revive her faith in the possibility of an all-consuming love. Love, loss, friendship, and the betrayals of the past all collide in this first fiction novel from New York Times and #1 international best-selling author Christina Lauren. So you go from when they were kids, like teenagers, best friends, falling in love, to now when they're older. So you see them falling in love and then you see the aftermath, and it just goes back and forth, and I just love that because you see kind of how like the naiveness, which one is the word? You see them growing from naive teenagers into like grown adults. The love that they have for each other is still there. Even if they haven't seen or talked to each other in over a decade, it's amazing, it's beautiful, I love it. Now this next one, I don't know if this is the correct book because I read this entire series in less than 1 week and all of the books kind of started to mesh together, but I believe that this is the one. If it's not this one, it's #4, but I believe it's this one. Ignite Me from the Shatter Me series. I love Aaron Warner. He is probably like one of my favorite book boyfriends. Above Resand. Above Resand. That should say something. I will say that after the 4th book, the series kind of takes like a weird turn, but we also have to remember that she did stop writing after the 4th book in this series, and then multiple years later she added 2 more books. I did not read the novellas that go in between them. I just read the main series. So Ignite Me has an overall 4.47 rating. That's super high on Goodreads with 487,000 ratings. With Omega Point destroyed, Juliet doesn't know if the rebels, her friends, or even Adam are alive. But that won't keep her from trying to track down the reestablishment once and for all. Now she must rely on Warner, the handsome commander of Sector 45, the one person she thought she could never trust, the same person who has saved her life. He promises to help Juliet master her powers and save the dying world. But that's not all he wants with her. There's something about the villain gets the girl. He wasn't really the villain in the first place. Love this series. It's a dystopian fantasy series, and this is the 3rd book in the series, but this was my favorite book from the entire series. I love it. I love the romance in this one. Yeah, I just love Aaron Warner so bad. So now these next books are all my 5-star reads from 2024. Let's start with this one. I had put off reading this series for so long because there's something about things being mainstream where I'm just like, I don't want to read it. I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to know about it. This is literally my entire personality right now. This is from the ACOTAR series. This is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the series. If you're barely starting the ACOTAR series and you like the first book, are you kidding me? A Court of Mist and Fury has 4.65 star ratings on Goodreads, and it has almost 2 million ratings. Feyre has undergone more trials than one human woman can carry in her heart. Though she's now been granted the powers and lifespan of the High Fae, she is haunted by her time under the mountain and the terrible deed she performed to save the lives of Tamlin and his people. As her marriage to Tamlin approaches, Feyre's hollowness and nightmares consume her. She finds herself split into two different, one who upholds her bargain with Rhysand, the High Lord of the feared Night Court, and the one who lives out her life in the Spring Court with Tamlin. While Feyre navigates a dark web of politics, passion, and dazzling power, a greater evil blooms. She might just be the key to stopping it, but only if she harnesses her harrowing gifts, heals her fractured soul, and decides how she wishes to shape her future and the future of a world in turmoil. Best-selling author Sarah J. Maas's masterful storytelling brings the second book in her dazzling, sexy, action-packed series to new heights. This is a fantasy book. It has romance, it has war brewing, it has different worlds, it has high fae and fairies and humans. This is just so good. I love the romance. I love witty banter, so I love Rhysand. I love Rhysand. He's so funny. If you have read this series, let me know so we can add each other on TikTok and I can just send you memes, because my whole For You page is ACOTAR memes. So for my birthday, my husband took me to Lululemon and I did a shopping spree there, and then he took me to Barnes & Nobles and I did a shopping spree there. And when I went up to the counter, I had like Barnes & Noble points. I had like $15. So I asked the girl, what do you think I should do? Should I use it now or should I save it? And she was like, well, what I'm doing with my point is I'm saving it till my birthday, and then I'm just gonna buy like an extra book for my birthday, like as a gift. And I said, well, it's my birthday. She said, well, then go ahead and buy another book. And I said, well, you tell me what your favorite book is. So she recommended Divine Rivals, and I'm going back to Barnes & Nobles and I cannot find this worker. It's like she was an angel sent from above, because I want to thank her for recommending this book, because this book is so beautiful. There's banter, but it's like actually like intelligent banter. Like they insult each other, but so intelligently, if that makes sense. It's so funny, it's so beautiful. It's fantasy but not too fantasy, so if you're looking to get into that realm of fantasy, I would recommend this because it's nothing too crazy. This is the first book in the series. I read Ruthless Vows, but I liked this one more. Ruthless Vows, I give it a 4. So Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross has an overall rating of 4.22 stars on Goodreads with over 400,000 ratings. When two young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, they must face the depths of hell in a war among gods to seal their fate forever. After centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again. But 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines of the war. Her best bet is to win the columnist position at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes a letter to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of the battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and for love. Shadow and Bone meets lore in this epic enemies to lovers fantasy novel filled with hope and heartbreak and the unparalleled power of love. Love that description because I love this book so much. It holds such a special place in my heart. I love it, love it, love it. It's so beautifully written, like lyrically written. It's romance with a side plot of war and fantasy. I really enjoyed this book. I love this book. If you're gonna read, like I said, only 3 books from this video, let this be the second one. Archer's Voice be the first one, and this one be the second one. Like, holds such a special place in my heart.